Ben, please stop staring out at the porta potty. We have a show to do.
I'm actually looking at the falcon. There's a falcon in my backyard.
Oh, my goodness.
Is it a bird of prey? Oh, that's the sound it makes. It's flying around in my backyard. It's the most exciting thing. Remember yesterday? I don't know if you remember this. I was on the phone with you, pre-show prep in the Ben Joravsky show every day. Dennis and I get over. We iron out every minute planned.
Yeah, and then then it just kind of seems to go to hell when we actually do the news. But yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, so don't you remember? I was like, "Oh my God, dude, there's a freaking hawk in the backyard." Well, it turns out I was wrong. It's a falcon, not a hawk. Though I couldn't tell you really the difference between one and the other. So that's what I was literally looking at just now. Like, oh wow, look at it fly.
Oh, fine. Ben Joravsky bird watching this weekend.
I'm a bird watcher. Yeah, I'm a bird watcher. Watching birds fly by. Caw, caw.
That's right, Brianna on the live stream chat. The sound effects have started already.
You know what, Brianna? I got a feeling like the more I'm locked into my house because of this pandemic, the more I revert back to the 12-year-old Benny Joravsky in his room making sound, blaming on the pandemic. You know, I remember when the show began, I was really mature and NPR like, okay, our next guest is Dan Mihalopoulos, outstanding journalist for WBEZ. Remember those days, D?
Yeah, I remember those days.
Now I'm in the attic. I'm like, I'm a whoopee.
I know you're doing a cat out of the bag every 5 minutes. All right,
sorry,
let's get today's show going. Yes, you do have a song of the day. Your Ben Joravsky show for Friday, November 13th is just moments away. What the hell was that?
Oh my God, I didn't think of that.
What was that? But before we get into this, let's thank the following unions for sponsoring this show. Well, actually, we just got one these days. The Chicago Federation of Labor. That's it. And today's show is brought to you by the Chicago Reader. For all things going on in Chicago, what to do, what to eat, where to go. Don't really have many options now with the pandemic, but you should check out the Chicago Reader, chicagoreader.com, and subscribe. Also, subscribe to the Chicago Reader YouTube channel because we will be jumping on that from time to time all throughout this month because we're moving over to the Reader. Oh, my God. What?
What's going on?
Your song of the day comes from Frank. Piece of My Heart by Janis Joplin.
Oh, God. Piece of my heart. Ooh. You know, D, that was terrible.
That was bad.
I can't, you know what? I can't conjure it. So how about I do this? How about, as long as we're doing Janis Joplin from the Janis Joplin songbook. Oh, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? Dr. D has one of those, and I must make amends. There you go. I'm sorry, Frank, it wasn't literally the song you wanted, but it was by the same artist.
And, you know, we never promised that these were performed well, okay?
Do you know that song at all? By Lord, Won't You Buy Me a Mercedes? I know it's way before millennial time. No, okay, just curious.
I know. Take another little piece of my heart now, baby. I know that one.
Wait.
Take it.
Is Janis Joplin on the show? Did she just... Oh, my God. I thought that was Janis Joplin. Wait, is that you?
That was me.
Gee, sounded just like... I just thought she came back to life and was now producing the Ben Joravsky show, which, you know, I can understand she would want a gig like that.
The Ben Joravsky show starts now. It is Friday, November 13th, and live from my apartment in his attic, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, it's another Rummana Rundown with Chicago Sun-Times editor, Roman Hussein. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist, Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody there. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Horse Whisperer Friday. That's hard to say, and here's why. I want to thank Frank for sending me a text this morning about Geraldo Rivera's comments regarding Donald Trump. I also want to unthank Frank for doing that because I was all set to talk about something else. It was in my mind, and then I saw that bit, Frank, and God darn it. I'm not allowed to swear, so God darn it. I had to talk about that. So I just ripped up what I had been doing. Hold on. Ripped it up. Oh, God. There
it is. Yeah. Rip that thing.
I got to get another piece of paper. That one's all ripped up already. Anyway, I had ripped up what I... Here. Hold on. There we go.
There it is. Yeah.
There you go. Rip it up. All right. I ripped up that bit that I had done and came up with another one because Geraldo Rivera, what a piece of work. All right, for all my younger listeners out there, I think everybody knows who Geraldo Rivera is, but I'll just help you out if you don't. He's a celebrity newsman, goes back to, I want to say the early 1970s. He's been around as long as I can remember, and I can recall a time back in the day, in those early 70s, seeing Geraldo on TV with his long flowing hair and his hip New York accent, and he was kind of like a taller, not as cool version of Al Pacino. And he was, believe it or not, sort of a lefty back then. He was like he had that counterculture vibe, and he was the young dude that the mainstream news outlets brought on to loop in the millennials. Not the literal millennials like Dr. D and his generation. I'm talking about millennial, not as a specific time in life, not as a specific time, but as a time in life when you're young and you're like the hipster crowd that everybody wants to win over. I was a millennial once, D. Yes, me. And it was my demographic, my younger demographic, that the national mainstream operators of America wanted to win over. And as such, they trotted out Geraldo. And you know what? It kind of worked. I was like, oh, he's cool. I like Geraldo Rivera. I want to be like Geraldo Rivera when I grow up. That was kind of the attitude I had, believe it or not. So, you might say that Geraldo's entire career is based on my people like me liking him. So you're welcome, Heraldo. No need to send us flowers of appreciation. Anyway, like all of us, Geraldo's gotten older. And now he's the exact opposite of the hip young guy with the Al Pacino flair. He's become MAGA man.
Damn, his mustache is awesome, though. Have you seen that mustache he's got these days?
Dude, I sent to you. Pre-show planning. I sent to you.
That sucker's thick, I tell you.
It's a thick mustache.
He looks like the modern day, the real life modern day Luigi of the Mario Brothers.
The Luigi, that reference is lost on me.
Only you, and only you. Everyone else listening, it's like, oh yeah, Luigi.
Wait, remember when we had the trivia question? I had to name the Mario Brothers. I don't think I did well on that trivia question. Anyway, somehow or other, as I said, Geraldo has turned into MAGA man. Oh, Geraldo, say it ain't so. Well, what Frank sent me was something that I just found fascinating. I've watched it 3 times. I sent it to Dennis. We're going to play but you know what, D? We're going to play the full version with when Rummana's on. Rummana's going to be riffing on this one, I know. But could you just give the folks a little taste of what Geraldo's up to? Can you play just like the first 10 seconds or so of Geraldo?
I'm looking now. I'm going to this website you sent to me. A lot of ads. This thing you sent to me.
It's called pre-show planning, folks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you got it?
No.
All right. Doesn't matter. I'll tell you all about it. So yeah, he's turned into MAGA man, and this is appeal he made. It's like his open appeal to his good friend Donald Trump, and he calls him his good friend Donald Trump, and his voice is really soft and gentle. And he says, this is an open appeal that I'm making because I think the time is coming.
We got it.
All right, here we go.
All right, take it away, Luigi.
As long as there's a realistic chance that something can come of it. As of right now, the president would need to win Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin. Close, but still long shots, razor-thin margins in those handful of states, but it's a heavy lift for the president. Let them count the votes all this week and the beginning of next week, and then at the end of the week that's coming, the week before Thanksgiving, you have to do the right thing for the nation.
Okay, he's got a wicked bedhead going on.
I told you.
He just woke up.
I think Heraldo is is subscribing to the same sleep schedule as I am.
Yeah.
I think I'll stay up till 3 a.m. and sleep till 11 and then do this appeal to my good friend, Donnie Trump. And as you heard there, he's got his voice soft and it's gentle. And he's appealing to Donald Trump to leave with, quote, and this is his words, grace and dignity. And when I heard that, D, I had to laugh out loud. Grace and dignity, Heraldo. I loved you as a kid back in the 70s. So I'm saying this as an admirer from back in the day. Grace and dignity? Donnie Trump? Come on, man. To quote Joe Biden, I don't think the words grace and dignity would ever apply to Donald Trump. But, if you want to pretend that they might, I think the advice to Donald Trump would have come in better last weekend when Pennsylvania was officially given to Biden. That's when Donald Trump should have conceded. That's when Donald Trump should have stepped down for the good of the country. That's when Donald Trump should have displayed some grace and dignity. He said, you know what, Joey B, in our democracy, when the loser steps down, he helps the winner with the transition. So I'm willing to help you with all aspects of the transition. But no, Donnie's resisting. He won't share like the secret cables with Joe Biden. He's still pretending like Joe Biden lost and he won. He could have resigned last night when Arizona was officially called. About time, by the way. Arizona was officially called for Joe Biden. Right now, Biden is up 5 million in the popular vote, thereabouts. He's got 290 electoral votes. He's up in Georgia. So when that recount is done, he'll have over 300 electoral college votes. He'll wind up with as many electoral college votes as Donnie got in 2016, and he will have won the popular vote, something Donald Trump did not do, and apparently couldn't do and still can't. But here's the thing. I got to give Heraldo credit for this. He realizes that when he's speaking to Donald Trump, it's like speaking to an 8-year-old who's out of control. And he's like the Donnie whisperer. And that's why I call it the horse whisperer, or in this case, the horse's ass whisperer. And this goes back to this movie tennis like that. This goes back to this movie I saw years ago. Robert Rivera played this cowboy who could tame wild horses by whispering in their ears. He knew what to whisper to a horse to get the horse to do the right thing. I don't know if you ever saw this movie. It wasn't that good.
Well, it reminds me of a movie I saw when I was a teenager, The Ass Whisperer.
Well, that is exactly what Heraldo is.
My mom was not happy when she found The Ass Whisperer under my bed.
I don't blame her. A great movie, by the way. Anyway, so like Robert Redford would whisper in the horse's ear, like, Winnie, or whatever he would whisper, and the horse would like suddenly stop bucking and like, oh, can you get on my saddle now? And that's kind of what Heraldo is doing. He's whispering into the president's ear. And so he has to say all the things that Donald Trump wants to hear. So he doesn't have a little temper tantrum. So he has to say things like, oh, they're all backstabbers. And, oh, you were a great president. Then he takes this like random shot at Dr. Fauci saying, isn't it funny that now Dr. Fauci is optimistic about a vaccine, even though he's really not that optimistic about the vaccine. I was actually like listening or reading about Dr. Fauci's comments about the vaccine. He's continually doing what he's been doing for the last year, being, Debbie Downer about the pandemic, telling people you got to stay inside. You can't go outside. The worst is yet to come. It's going to be a terrible winter. Wear the mask. Wash your hands. That vaccine won't be coming for a long, long time. And when it does come, it's not going to be instantaneously distributed to everybody in the country. So he's not doing anything remotely like what Heraldo is suggesting, which is like he's suggesting that Dr. Fauci withheld his optimism about the vaccine until after the election in order to undermine Donald Trump. And now he's trying to like again undermine Donald Trump by saying, wow, this pandemic's about to end just in time for Joe Biden. It's all stuff in the imagination of Donald Trump and paranoia in the minds of Donald Trump. And so Heraldo is whispering into his ears things that he knows Trump would want to hear. And here's the topper, where Heraldo goes on this riff about what a great job Donald Trump has done helping the nation, helping lead us through this pandemic. And that just like struck me as so bizarre because we're in the middle of it. The second wave is hit. I don't know what Donald Trump has been doing to help. I can't think of anything he has done except to hinder. Just think about it. In the first week of November, the last week of October, he was crossing the country from one state to the next, holding rallies, thousands of MAGA people in tight quarters, hardly anyone wearing a mask, hacking in each other's face. And Trump's like, COVID, COVID, COVID. I'm sick and tired of hearing about it. Meanwhile, like the tally is just growing of people who've got the Korlandowski, Ben Carson. I think it was like, I saw a headline, 130 or so Secret Service agents got the virus. You watch, there'll be reports of outbreaks in the states that where the rallies were held. Heraldo Rivera, here's a lowdown on your friend. If Donald Trump is fighting so hard for the second term, why has he quit on the first one? He's still the president. He should be leading the charge for, like, I don't know, a second round of stimulus for all the cities and states and people who are struggling because they can't work. Because there's no funds coming in to operate government on the local level. The second wave is hitting. It's even going to be worse. It'll be harder budget crunches for states like Illinois, cities like Chicago. He could be using his bully pulpit to, I don't know, get people to wear masks. But he's not doing any of that. He's hiding out in the White House. He's sulking and he's tweeting. He's trying to pit one part of America against the other one. But, you know, if this is what it takes, if this is what it takes to get Trump to do the right thing and just step aside, if this is what it requires, Heraldo, to whisper in his ear, to tell him all the things he wants to hear, to tell him how everyone is against him and they're backstabbing, but even though he's a wonderful, great president, the greatest president ever who made America great again, if that's what it takes, Heraldo, then keep whispering in the horse's ear. We got a great show today, everybody. Roman Hussein will be here.
Yeah, let's go. Woo! Oh my, seriously, what is that? Is that your attic?
No, D. It's that Falcon. Anyway, Roman Hussein will be here. We're going to play that Heraldo Rivera tape for get her riffs on that. A lot of political talk ahead of us. Before we do that, the young man from Alton, the man who knows the difference between a falcon and a hawk. They call that back home at Alton, they call him Dr. D with the news.
What's going on, everybody? Name's Dennis. Hey, Claire, welcome back to the live stream chat. Where you been? Hope things are well. Claire's back on the live stream chat. Ben, say hey.
Well, I just want to do something out of the 70s, just like Heraldo Rivera. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Come on, everybody. Welcome back, welcome. Well, they treat you a lot. Do.
Well, that is not the way to get younger people listening to this show, Ben.
Come on, everybody loves Welcome Back, Cotter. Come on, they're all watching it at Nick and Night. Millennials love Welcome Back, Cotter.
Before we find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois for the fourth and final time this week, we need to try our best in getting every single one of you listening right now to download this weekend's Benny J bonus interviews. Every Saturday, Sunday, and Monday while we're away, a brand new interview for you to play at the Chicago Reader website and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Let's go through the lineup here. On Saturday, we got Jason Lee. Wait, Jason Lee? My name is Earl. Ben, it's obviously not that Jason Lee, but tell people what they're going to expect here with this interview.
Well, Jason Lee is a great political strategist here in the city of Chicago. So a left of center political strategist, works for United Working Families, and he's from Texas. He hails from Texas. He knows a thing or two about Texas politics. So we're going to be talking about the election, demographic changes in Texas, the opportunities for Dems to make inroads there someday, I hope. Maybe Jason will sign on to my plan to move hipsters from California to Texas. Somebody else was just telling me, no, they were telling me they should move the hipsters to Wyoming. It's catching on, this notion of moving hipsters out of California. Yeah, Jason and I will be breaking down. And we're also talking fair tax issues and this is a theme. This is that I've been dealing with a lot of my guests over the last week, and it'll be a theme that you hear over the weekend. The different segments of the Democratic Party are starting to be at odds with one another. I've been watching this, quite interesting. Our old friend David Sirota has put together. David Sirota, a leftist journalist, was a speechwriter for Bernie Sanders, and now has his own blog that he does. And he is outspoken in his opposition to sort of the Lincoln Project segment of the Democratic Party, which is a bizarre thing to call it because the Lincoln Project was put together by Republicans. But Sirota is battling with them because he said ultimately they wasted their money and they didn't do a good job of winning over Republicans, which is what they said they wanted to do. And he's urging Democrats. The lesson he wants them to take away from the last election is to be more left, to be more like Bernie. And that is the key to winning for the Democrats. So he's advocating that. Then you have people like Connor Lamb, the congressman in Pennsylvania, the moderate who barely won. He held on to his seat. And he is saying, no, the Sirotas of the world and the AOCs of the world are going too far to the left. They're making people like him vulnerable, putting people like him in a very awkward position because they're running with, they needed Trump voters to win. And so what he says is that the AOCs and the Sirotas of the world have never come up with a strategy that has won over Trump voters. It's a very real and important debate going on in the Democratic Party. So I've been asking a lot of my guests about it. Jason Lee, I'll be talking to him about that. And I can tell you who the other guests are. You want me to do that, Dean?
Well, let me do that because on Sunday, by the way, that'll be available at 5 a.m. on Saturday. On to Sunday's interview, he's a reoccurring guest on the program. He knows quite a bit, and my God, this guy can play the guitar. We call him PC. It's Peter Cunningham. What are you going to be talking about with Peter this time, Ben?
Well, it's Peter represents sort of the Joe Biden wing of the Democratic Party. You know, we got some Joe Biden types come on this show. It's not just Lefty Land here. And PC used to work for Daley, and he's and Arnie Duncan. He's pals with Rahm Emanuel. And so he'll come on the show. He just wrote an essay in the Chicago Tribune urging Democrats to come together. And he's all about the messaging. So he's basically saying you can take the raw ideas that the AOCs and David Sirotas are proposing, but you have to nuance it. Nuance the messaging so that people buy into it. So we'll be talking to him, getting his reactions to sort of this debate that's ongoing. And as I said, Jason comes at it more from the left. We have two people this weekend who are coming at it more from the left. And PC is a centrist.
That'll be Sunday, 5 a.m., just like Saturday's interview, available by 5 a.m. And finally, on Monday, well, we haven't talked with State Rep Delia Ramirez in a while, so we had her on, and we talked with her last night. Ben, tell people about this interview with Delia Ramirez.
Yeah, it's excellent. She did an excellent job. Delia Ramirez she just won re-election, so second term state representative for the northwest side of Chicago again. More to the left. I think Delia was a Bernie Sanders supporter. I think she was. Delia, if I have it wrong, I apologize, but she's with the Working Families Party here in Chicago. And so we talked about these wider issues, and then we also got into a little Michael Joseph Madigan talk, because she's a Democratic state representative, and as such, she's dealing with the issue of what to do about Michael. Is there a song? Da, 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 what to do with somebody. It's a Broadway musical. Dennis was looking at me like, where did that? Maria! How do you handle that? I like Maria. Just came to me, man. West Side Story. One of Dennis's favorite musicals.
I mean, it's true. It's true. I love that story.
Like every now and then, Dennis will break in, tonight, I'll see my love.
It's true.
And sometimes in the morning, Dennis will wake up and go, I feel pretty, oh, so witty.
Okay, you're giving these people too many behind-the-scenes looks here, all right?
So anyway, what do you do with Maria? What do you do with Michael Joseph Madigan? How do you handle a girl like Maria? I think that's the title. Anyway, so we had a little Michael Madigan talk. Good stuff.
And also, Delia recently got married. Congratulations, Delia. You'll hear more about that with our Monday Benny J bonus interview. So let's recap, huh? Saturday, Jason Lee. No, not My Name is Earl. Sunday, Peter Cunningham, PC, and Monday, State Rep Delia Ramirez. All three of these available 5 a.m. at Chicago Reader website and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Okay, local news. Let's go. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
I'm not a perfect person.
Today, the governor will be at the Thompson Center, of course, for his 2:30 COVID-19 update. And guys, not sure if you've heard this or not, but things aren't looking too great on the COVID front. Positive COVID-19 tests are surging in Illinois, and it looks like we're headed back to the way things were when this whole damn pandemic started. Here in Chicago, a 30-day stay-at-home advisory is underway, and more mitigation efforts are happening all throughout the states. Indoor dining is banned again. Stores are closing earlier. You know how this goes by now. And that's why Governor Pritzker announced his new COVID-19 campaign today. And, say what you will about the governor, and I'm sure all of our downstate listeners will, but damn, this guy knows how to create a campaign. So, Ben, let's take a little time to talk about his latest campaign, introducing the J.B. Pritzker Healthy Holidays to You campaign. Well, you like that. Here's the Team Pritzker press release. With a new wave of COVID-19 sweeping the nation and concerning trends here in Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker launched a new awareness campaign today to encourage residents to take safety precautions throughout the upcoming holiday season to protect themselves and their families, and ultimately save lives. The Illinois Department of Public Health is recommending that residents stay home as much as possible and leave for only essential activities. To provide safer ways to celebrate, Healthy Holidays to You highlights what doctors and scientists consider top methods to reduce your risk of contracting or spreading the virus. Limiting gatherings to your immediate family or keeping them virtual, maintaining 6 feet of distance from others, and wearing a mask whether you're indoors or out. Ahead of the holiday season, Illinois Department of Health has provided recommendations for keeping you and your family safe from the virus. That's from Governor J.B. Pritzker. He also said, we are making every effort to remind people what epidemiologists and other infectious disease specialists say are the best ways to reduce the risk of contracting COVID-19. Traditions are so important to all of us, but this year we all need to celebrate a little bit differently. Like all of his campaigns, the governor has put some money into his Healthy Holidays to You campaign. And right now, in my face, I have a 15-second Healthy Holidays to You PSA to play for all of you. Let's give it a listen. Governor Pritzker, anything you'd like to say before we play this?
Face coverings.
Okay, great. Interesting. Here it is, our first of maybe many Healthy Holidays to You ads.
Over the Wi-Fi and through the Zoom to grandmother's house we go. Host a virtual celebration to see more friendly faces and protect your most vulnerable family and friends. Let's all stay safe together. Your healthy holiday starts at allin.illinois.gov.
Hey, wait. Was that Union Man Ed Maher talking there?
He had some. Oh my God, he had Ed's got some pipes, and that guy had some pipes as well. I don't know, D. The whole thing depresses me. Finding it harder and harder to talk about the pandemic because it's really, it's just so depressing. And I realize that Governor Pritzker is trying to do the right thing, trying to put out the right message, but just the thought of like cautioning people about getting together for Thanksgiving is just, be careful, be scared, be very scared. But, the reality is what we have to do, but it's just depressing. What can I tell you? I'm not bummed out. I was kind of feeling pretty good. Now I'm bummed out, D. He didn't try to do I don't know what the Lori was up to. The more I think about with that PSA yesterday, we're going to be discussing.
Oh, the Lori Lightfoot one from yesterday? Oh, boy.
I really, everybody's struggling with this, I know, and it's easy to take shots at people, but the reality is that J.B. Pritzker, as governor of the state of Illinois, is largely responsible for minimizing the impact of the pandemic in Illinois. And so he has to do these things, ladies and gentlemen. And no matter what he does is going to irritate some segment of the state or another. So any attempt to close down the economy, to limit our interactions, will spark outrage throughout the state. We all know, we're talking about it. MAGA is just still defiant in regards to efforts by the government to protect ourselves from the virus. So he's in a really rough political predicament. And the reality is I'm as weary as everybody else, D. from the pandemic. I usually at this time of year I go visit with my kids, and obviously I'm not going to be going anywhere. We stuck right here in the attic, looking at the hawk or the falcon, excuse me, as it flies around. So yeah, from a political standpoint, I feel for J.B. Pritzker because nobody is looking at him as a hero anymore. You notice that? Remember in the early days, people would know, oh, he's so popular. Then MAGA ignited.
I was saying, dude was going to run for president.
Yeah, well, that ain't happening.
Well, I mean, it's not completely out of the picture, is it?
Well, no, you're right. It's not completely out. Frank sent me, thank you, Frank. Frank's on a roll with these updates he sends me. This tweet put out by Marjorie Taylor Greene, QAnon congresswoman from Georgia. This one's a piece of work, D. I'll read it to you. Our first session of new member orientation covered COVID in Congress. This is from Congresswoman-elect Marjorie Taylor Greene. Masks, masks, masks. I proudly told my freshman class that masks are oppressive. In Georgia, we work out, shop, go to restaurants, go to work, and school without masks. My body, my choice, free your face. That's utter insanity. I don't know what to say. How many Secret Servicemen have got it, have COVID now? I think 130 or so. Dick Uihlein. Oh my God. Dick Uihlein and his wife have it. He's the mega donor to the Republican Party, far right, gazillionaire. Is always giving money, big supporter of Bruce Rauner. Now he's got it. So, obviously the wealthy people that have it, they have access to health care. They're a little better shape. Donald Trump. Oh my God, Dave Chappelle. Did you watch the Dave Chappelle opening monologue on Saturday Night Live, D?
Yeah, I watched it.
You see the bit about the helicopter picking up Donald Trump and taking him to the hospital, and then Chappelle goes, I'm just saying, you kind of could have walked there. I just thought it was hilarious. But like a helicopter service from his house to the hospital. When the helicopter lands, there's just like 10 doctors waiting for him. Nobody in America has that kind of service. Everybody else, every other city is like running out of hospital beds. I just read an article about El Paso, Texas. They're like putting hospital beds in the parking lot of the hospital. So it's a serious pandemic, but nope, not according to the QAnon congresswoman. So this is what JB has to deal with. This is why I'm much more sympathetic to JB than a lot of people in the state, because he is in a delicate position, to put him out there.
All right. Well, I know you usually have family gatherings on Thanksgiving. What's the plan for you this year?
Well, as I said, we're not going anywhere, and so just kind of a sad. We're sitting around the fire pit with my lovely wife, and just the two of us, man. As the song says, just the two of us.
Guys, you got like 5 songs of the day today. You're so lucky, you listeners.
Yeah.
Is anybody else picturing Ben just holding the turkey leg, staring out the window, looking at the porta potty? Anybody else picturing that right now?
Because I'll be around the fire pit. That's what I'll be doing with that turkey wing, and some Jack Daniels and a doobie. That'll be my Thanksgiving. What are you gonna do?
You don't smoke pot. I'm gonna be just hanging here in the city, not going downstate. Just hanging here in the city, laying low this Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Shout out to Kyle on the live stream chat. Kyle says, dude, it's a stupid tragedy of American society that we are doing an awareness campaign for a pandemic 8 months into the same pandemic. What a failure, culturally and societally speaking.
It's absolutely. God, I wish I thought of that's a great point. Like we're doing PSAs and it's because America just got tired. It just got tired of having to be inside. I'm tired of it. Then America just like declared it was over. Different parts of it declared it earlier. First, we had MAGA with Operation Gridlock in Michigan. And so now you got to remind people again, guys, this thing is really, nope, nobody wants to deal with it. So you're right. It's a low point. Absolutely, I agree with you.
All right, moving on to the news in the city of Chicago. No public event scheduled for our Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Science is back, baby.
All right, science is back, baby.
Oh, God, I don't see any evidence of that, but whatever.
In the last few weeks, Mayor Lightfoot has been meeting with her fellow city council aldermen about her 2021 budget. And according to the following story, they haven't been the friendliest meetings. It's time for another episode of everyone's favorite Chicago political soap opera. People, it is time for a mayor and her alderman.
A mayor and her alderman.
I want an answer. It's not something you ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit, is what I think.
I always, whenever things are getting a little gloomy around here, D, whenever I think about Thanksgiving, just separated from my family, sitting around the fire pit, looking at the Falcon, drinking Jack Daniels, dreaming about smoking a doobie. I just then, to cheer myself up, I just think of Raylo and Lori in that exchange. I think you're 100%. Oh my God. It always makes me smile. By the way, the Tribune, you didn't see this in today's Tribune, D. I am jumping ahead of us, but they recounted that. Yeah. They at the very end of their story, they had they were talking about how the mayor has been having these virtual meetings with aldermen, and some of them have erupted into nastiness. At the very end of the story, they brought it back and they quoted it. But of course, unlike the Ben Joravsky show, they bleeped it out, if you will, in the newspaper. They wrote it's S dash dash dash. But I knew what it meant, D. Yeah, because I've been listening to our show for a long time. I go, I know what that means. Can't fool me, Tribune.
The following comes from the Chicago Tribune and Gregory Pratt. As Mayor Lori Lightfoot works behind the scenes to muster the votes she needs to pass her 2021 city budget, she has delivered a message to city council members. Those who vote against her spending plan should not expect their wards to be prioritized. This is according to Alderman. Lightfoot met virtually Wednesday with members of the City Council Black Caucus, and according to 6 aldermen, she made waves by telling them that aldermen who don't support her budget won't have their wards prioritized. And let's see here. We have, here's the very frank quote from Lightfoot, according to 2 aldermen. Quote, "Don't come to me for shit for the next 3 years if you don't support the budget." Now, if you recall, last year our 2020 budget was announced. I believe 11 aldermen voted against it, and Lightfoot went out of her way to highlight those 11 aldermen by launching a website shaming those who voted against it. In response to questions about the mayor's latest remarks, Lightfoot spokeswoman Enel Ruiz did not dispute the comments, but said in a statement that closing the city's $1.2 billion budget deficit requires sacrifice on the part of every single member, not just some. So it seems like she did, in fact, say it. Don't come to me for shit, she said there. Some aldermen were surprised by the mayor making the threat so directly, and we have quotes from a handful of aldermen. But before we do that, Ben, your thoughts here before we get into that.
Well, I could go on and on about this. It was a virtual meeting. They limited the number of what a city we live in. The last time they had this virtual meeting, I don't know if it's the last time, but they had a virtual meeting, the infamous virtual meeting from like May, where I just alluded to it, where Raylo got into it with Lori Lightfoot. Apparently, it was in violation of the Open Meetings Act. So now they're getting smarter, in quotes. So they're having smaller groups of aldermen at these meetings. And the notion is everybody wants to speak frankly. So you have to have smaller groups, and you have to have it private, because if it's public, people will be limited, or maybe they'll play to the audience, and they won't really speak openly with each other. And I wish these were public, because then people could hear if Lori Lightfoot make that ultimatum herself directly. And if a ward needs services, there should be no connection to how that mayor votes, or how that alderman votes. That's like out of the Donald Trump playbook. Donald Trump figured out, well, There's blue states and the red states. The blue states will never vote for me. So I'm just going to worry about the red states and let the blue states just fall. Remember that? Remember when he said, if you take out the deaths in the blue states, really not that big a deal about COVID. Remember that little moment of truthfulness from Donald Trump? So Lori Lightfoot's heading down that path. They mentioned in the Bright one today, Jeanette Taylor. I don't know if that's one of the quotes you have.
Yep.
But Jeanette Taylor, a favorite of the show, 20th Ward Alderwoman, Jeanette Taylor, defying Mayor Lightfoot. Dennis will get into that in a little bit. She's the 20th Ward on the South Side. 20th Ward may need streets repaved. 20th Ward may need trees trimmed. 20th Ward may need more garbage cans. I don't know. It's services. The mayor of the city of Chicago should provide those services to the people of the 20th Ward, regardless of how Jeanette Taylor votes. And I'll tell you something. This is really irritates me. This is age-old Chicago politics. The wealthy wards on the north side traditionally had the independent alderman who would vote against the mayor. Never did they ever suffer from a lack of city services. Never that I can recall did a mayor, Mayor Daley, certainly not Mayor Rahm, oh God, he loved the north side, Mayor Rahm or Daddy Daley, punish the north side for the independent voting habits of its aldermen, because those are the wealthiest wards in the city of Chicago, and if their services were cut, those constituents would get on the horn and start yelling at the mayor. Or maybe, like in the case of Rahm, they were friends with Rahm. The constituents and stuff would just like write emails to Rahm and engage him. They would just go straight to, I was going to say the horse, but whatever. I was going to say something I shouldn't said. I held back and I didn't say it.
We're going to talk about the ass whisperer again?
Yes, I was going there. So I just think that if Mayor Lori Lightfoot wants to win support for her budget, she should do it by making an appeal based on the merits of the budget. She should say, listen, there's limitations that we have, but to make, we can't give you everything you want this year. It's really tight. It's hard. I don't know. Whatever she's going to say, she should say it. But to make threats, to say, don't come to me for something. You're the mayor of Chicago. It shouldn't be support for the 20th Ward should not be contingent on Jeanette Taylor's support for you. I remember Leslie Harrison of the 5th Ward. She was saying 5th Ward is not far from the 20th Ward. It joins, it's just to the east, just south of Hyde Park. I remember the alderman saying how Rahm was punishing her ward for her independence. It would not facilitate the construction of a grocery store at 72nd Street in South Shore. See, these politics have got to go. And I thought this was a new day in Chicago. So these kinds of threats, all you need are 25 votes, Mayor Lori Lightfoot. 25 votes is all you need. And the issue right here has to do with the property tax hike. And the higher the property tax hike, the greater the rebellion on the north side. And the north side alderman apparently told her that they can only vote for so much of a property tax hike. And so she's trying to limit the property tax hike to appease north side aldermen. This is how it was presented in the Sun-Times. So she's telling aldermen on the south side, I can't give you more revenue for the things you need because there'll be a rebellion on the north side. So shut up and do what I tell you. I'm sorry. I disapprove of that, D. And that's like old-fashioned machine politics. I thought the machine was dead. Apparently not.
All right, we have some aldermanic quotes here. Remember, the comment that Lori Lightfoot said, quote, don't come to me for shit for the next 3 years if you don't support the budget. All right, on to the responses here. Our first alderman, well, there have been braver. The first alderman asked to be anonymous. Here's the quote from the nameless alderman. Quote, we were all floored. I was like, wait a second. You're supposed to represent the entire city. You're telling us that you're not going to represent certain areas because they don't vote for you and or they don't vote for your budget? That ain't right.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm with Dennis. That just say who you are. Come on, that's just the point right there.
Alderman Habita.
Come on, Alderman.
All right, on to our...
man it up or woman it up, but whatever. That is, come on.
Our second alderman admitted Lightfoot is now talking tough amid fierce resistance to the property tax increase from North Side alderman. This alderman also asked to be anonymous. But thanks to Fran the Woman Spielman and the Chicago Sun-Times, we do know that it's a female, or an alder woman, as we say. She said, quote, "People ask for program ideas, ask for money, and ask for different things. And when I put them in there, they don't vote for the budget. I've been burned on that, and I'm not going to be burned again." The second alderman who also requested and to be anonymous. So there you go.
Yeah, we do not know if that second alderman was a woman or not, because she said it at the start of the quote is a reference to Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Doesn't matter, whoever it is, man or woman. Doesn't matter who it is.
Butchered that.
Yeah, well, don't worry about it. Anyway, same point. It's funny, D. It's like people come on the show off the record versus on the record, and I've noticed that there's really, it's like that initial fear, like when people talk to a reporter, it's just this initial fear, like, oh, I'm going to be quoted, what it's going to look like. Can we go off the record, they'll say. And all right, we'll go off the record, get your thoughts, and then they'll speak frankly. And you bring them on the show and you go, remember, everything, there is no off the record when you're an open mic. Everything you say is going to be heard or potentially heard by the people that you're kind of worried about hearing it. And they go, okay, I got to do. And then once they get going, you know what? Their on the record comments in front of the mic are not that much different than the off the record things they said. So like 9 times out of 10, the things they say that are off the record that should not be, that they don't want to be identified to, are not that outrageous. Like this. I mean, what is outrageous about this? Think about it. People ask for program. She said, people ask for program ideas, ask for money, and ask for different things. And when I put them in there, they don't vote for the budget. I've been burned on that, and I'm going to be burned again. What's outrageous about that? Oh, I guess it's because they're reporting on a private conversation. That's why I'm saying these little budget sessions shouldn't be private. They should be public. If Mayor Lori Lightfoot feels compelled to intimidate aldermen into voting for a budget, then she should say so. She should say, and you know what? I got a feeling, by the way, I don't think she would refrain from it. That's something about Lori Lightfoot that, even though you don't know all over the map on this one, D. Remember when Stacey Davis Gates was on the show, and we were reviewing when Lori Lightfoot went up to a person outside a schoolhouse and went into her face and was wagging her finger. Stacey was talking about that, and it's like, yeah, it was a bully move, but she was being Lori Lightfoot. I think a lot of people kind of admire that. So I don't know why she doesn't come out and say it. Be honest. Why are you hiding behind private meetings, phone calls, virtual meetings that nobody else? By the way, what do you think the odds are someone recorded it? That's how that first virtual meeting, with the famous Raylo exchange, somebody, we don't know who, a lot of finger pointing in that one. Remember I asked Raylo, did you record it? He goes, he just kind of laughed at me. That's how you handle it, folks. When someone asks you a question, just kind of laugh at it. Go, well, next question, please.
All right, now
I think they should have those public. Anyway, D, go ahead.
Now our next alderman didn't mind sharing their identity, and that's because she's a badass. It's JT20, 20th Ward Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor. Remember, the quote from Lori Lightfoot to the Black Caucus about her budget was, quote, "Don't come to me for shit for the next 3 years if you don't support the budget." JT20's comment, quote, and I love this woman. Here it is. "This is some bullshit. We're elected just like you are." Taylor did not return repeated phone calls. Neither did Alderman Sophia King. Ben, of what ward?
Sophia King is the 4th ward.
What a dork. Chairman of the Progressive Reform Caucus, who also stood up to the mayor during the call. All right, let's do one more quote here. And he quite possibly could be Lori Lightfoot's least favorite alderman.
I want an answer. It's not something you ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit, is what I think. If you think we
More offensive, fuck you then.
Okay,
Who are you
guys.
to tell me I'm
Break
full of
it
shit?
up. That's why I say let's have these out in the open. It's exciting, good stuff.
It's Alderman Ray Lopez of the 15th Ward. Raylo said Lightfoot's statements to the 20-member Black Caucus contradict the earlier statement, saying, quote, aside from the mayor who doesn't trade for votes threatening to cut people off, it just shows how desperate she is right now in trying to pass this budget. Rather than trying to listen to aldermen's concerns, she's trying to browbeat them into submission.
Yeah, I'm with Raylo on this one. By the way, there's some great Raylo riffs in this Fran Spielman article. And what I appreciate about Raylo, he doesn't go off the record. By the way, I'm really intrigued by this, though. Help me, just follow me on this one. Okay? Sources said the mayor's threat prompted a rebuke from Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor, 20th Ward, who told Lightfoot, quote, this is some bull ass. I'm not quite sure what comes after the SD. You seem to think it's shit, but I'm not quite sure. It just says S dash dash dash, huh? Could be something else. Anyway, we're elected just like you are. Taylor did not return repeated phone calls. Well, how do you know if she said it? If she didn't return a repeated phone call, somebody put Jeanette Taylor out there. Jeanette said this. But no, there was this other exchange. Follow me on this one, where Mayor Lori Lightfoot is trying to swap votes, get the people to support her budget in exchange for carve-outs on the issue of immigrants being harassed by federal agents. And Raylo really gets to the heart of that one. He says he's trying to win over, what did he put? Like lefties, aldermen. I guess she's talking about aldermen who come on the Ben Joravsky show other than Raylo. So a lot of political gamesmanship going here in regards to the budget. Lori Lightfoot is trying to stitch together a majority. And look, Mayor Lightfoot, I'm just saying, political advice that you don't have to follow. And if you're like most politicians, you won't follow. But all you need are 25 votes. That's all you need. You would be the 26. There's no shame in not having 48 aldermen vote for your budget. I thought it was foolish when those days when Mayor Rahm would twist arms, desperate to get 48 aldermen, had a show, big sign of support. It's kind of this weird attitude that we have in Chicago. That's just all you need to do is pass your budget. So twisting arms and threatening to cut off services, that's not a good look, to put it mildly. And also Fran quoted her from earlier. She goes, Lightfoot argued the city is not a rubber stamp because, quote, I don't buy votes. This is also from that story, D. I'm not saying to somebody, if I get your vote, I'll give you this project. You'll get this money. That's not the way I'm going to operate, the mayor said then. Looks like she's singing a different tune now. It's in other words, if you don't vote for my budget, I'm not going to give you beep. So not a good look, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, not a good look.
So what will happen next? Well, I guess we're going to have to wait and find out. And guys, I'm on the edge of my seat after that update. But we're going to have to wait and find out for the next episode of A Mayor and Her Alderman.
A mayor and her alderman.
Science is back, baby.
Political science, that's back. Chicago City Council.
Shout out to Brianna on the live stream chat. She made a very interesting comment. I would love to get your thoughts on this, Ben. Brianna says, Lori is out-ramming Mayor Rahm. What do you think?
Well, I can't say that definitively because I never heard the private conversations of Rahm Emanuel. But Brianna, to your point, it sure sounds like something Rahm would do. You know, it's like bullying tactics. It's straight up Rahm. Rahm, remember Rahm sat Karen Lewis down. This is what you're going to do. When he was elected, he was still mayor-elect. You're going to tell your union flunkies to fall in line. I'm going to close your schools and cut your salaries and turn over schools to charters, and you're just going to like it. So, yeah, there is a little Rahm-like quality to it, Brianna. I wish we could have heard the private conversations of Rahm. Raylo, where were you when I needed you for that? Actually, I do not know it was Raylo that taped that first one, so let me just amend that. But we could have used, that would have been very entertaining, private conversations of Rahm Emanuel to his alderman. The F-bomb would have been flying. Right, D? Rahm loved the F-bomb.
Stephen on the live stream chat says she's even Rahmier than Rahm. At least Rahm wanted 50 votes. Lori just wants 26.
Yeah, well, Lori probably wants over 30. Because, it's like that we even know how many no votes there were. I can't think of any contested legislative issue that we know the votes on, but we all know, like, we chart the number of no votes in a mayor's budget. It's a sign of, the mayor's weakening powers. The strong mayors, 50-0. It was arguably the most embarrassing moment of the 21st century for the Chicago City Council when they passed Mayor Rahm's first budget. Well, when they passed it at all, but 50-0. Scott Wagasback is honest. He goes, I'm embarrassed by the vote. That was in 2011, and they voted, among other things, to cut the mental health clinics. An embarrassing moment in the city of Chicago. But for Rahm, it was a sign of, look at me, I'm the man. I come from Washington. I control the aldermen. They're my little puppets. Embarrassing moment for the city of Chicago, and Rahm acted like that was a sign of leadership. And so much of corporate and civic Chicago buys into that. We need order in Chicago. And in their mind, the order in Chicago is when aldermen do whatever the mayor tells them. So I welcome democracy in the city of Chicago, D. And I know that Mayor Lori Lightfoot can get those 25 votes. I believe she can. I'm not saying I'm going to agree with the budget they pass, but I don't think she has to resort to threats. In fact, I think there are many aldermen in the Black Caucus who would vote with Lori without the threats. Because I know a lot of the aldermen in the Black Caucus and their careers, their reputations, they're go-along types. They don't need Lori to threaten them to win their vote. So, Dave, when I think about it, what's worse? Giving an alderman, quote unquote, like money for a park in order to win his or her vote? Or saying you're not getting any money for any park if you don't vote for me. What's worse? I think the first one is better. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, we're all friends in this. That park you need, that park, I'm going to give you that park.
And you kind of cleaned up that second option. It was, don't ask me for shit.
Lori, I'll tell you what, Lori, behind the scenes, whoa. That's why I say let's get more of this out there. If it's kind of like, if nothing else, it exposes the utter hypocrisy. Or no swearing. We're not going to swear. I thought you were allowed to write the word shit in the newspaper now. No, D? I guess not, huh? New York Times does. But I wouldn't. Did they write shithole countries in the papers? Or are they still writing? I guess it varies newspaper to newspaper.
Yeah, very interesting. But that's our local news, guys. Feel free to weigh in on the live stream chat if you were listening live. We would love to hear from you. Also, several ways you can reach us, okay? You can send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. Leave us a message. If you want us to read your message on the program, leave your name and where you're from. Very helpful. You can call the Ben Joravsky Show. Yes, we have a phone number, 708-658-4788. The number again, 708-658-4788. We're not going to answer, but just leave us a voicemail, and there's a good chance we will play your voicemail on the show. And online, you can find us at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We would love to hear from you. Guys, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, Roman Hussein will be joining us. It's another Rummana Rundown. It's the Ben Joravsky Show. We are live from my apartment in Ben's attic. People, don't go anywhere.
A mayor and her alderman.
I want an answer. It's not something you ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit, is what I think.
not a perfect person.
We heard what you want to do. Now we'll tell you what's best for you. That's the story from the editorial board. A little tip for the working man. Your employers are all our friends. That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board. We like to save the world when it's under attack. But how you gonna pay for that? Ow! When people want proof that the world ain't flat, we'll just give them their money back. Oh yeah! That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan. Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by the Chicago Reader and the Chicago Federation of Labor. Benny J, take it away.
Before I bring Roman Hussein on every Friday on our show, Roman Hussein, that's just to make a comment about those Michael Girardi songs. Big fan of Michael Girardi, and I really appreciate him turning that music over for us to play. Anyway, my worlds converged today, D. At 2 o'clock, generally, we reach out to a guest. We play a Michael Girardi song while the connection's happening, and I get to watch my guests listening to Michael Girardi as he's playing. And Maya Dukmasova comes on the show quite frequently. She's like always like rocking out to Girardi. I notice her. She's like, yeah, got her head bopping back and forth. She doesn't do air guitar like I do, but she's almost there. Anyway, lo and behold, I'm reading Maya's latest story, which is in she's freelanced it to an internet publication called The Appeal. And it was all about how the mayor of the city of Chicago was raising bridges to try to restrict flow into the loop, to cut down on looting. I suppose that's the reason that she was doing it, and the impact it had on the lives of people who had to get to the loop or get around the city and how it inconvenienced them. And lo and behold, D, what do I see in this article? Michael Girardi quoted. And I'm not sure Maya knew that that's the guy that she's rocking out to, playing air guitar while she waits to come on the air. So anyway, it's kind of, my world was coming together. Like, oh my God, that's Michael Girardi. Anyway, another person who plays air guitar when she hears Michael Girardi is our next guest, Roman Hussein from the Chicago Sun-Times, editor, columnist, dear friend of the Ben Joravsky Show. Romana, before we get to do you ever play air guitar?
No.
Okay.
I mean, maybe I did in the 90s, like when, hard rock was really in. But, I know I've read about air guitar competitions that they have in Europe somewhere. I forgot where. I want to say it was like some country, like some Nordic country. But they have like this huge like air guitar contest. And I remember just laughing about it. I read it in Spin magazine, I think, or Rolling Stone a few years back. And Just wonder
Yeah,
how.
I don't know if air
like,
guitar.
How do you win an air guitar contest? You're not playing a guitar. You're just pretending you're playing a guitar, and I don't know. I guess it's probably the movements and the enthusiasm you have.
Well,
Absolutely.
we can ask Ben. He's going to be in the next competition.
Rummana, I have a confession to make here. Big time air guitar player. I'm always playing air guitar. And so, for instance, I feel like when I'm playing air guitar, like last night, I came home and my wife was listening to Caravanserai, a Carlos Santana album from 1972. I'm not even sure you were even born yet. I know Dennis wasn't born yet anyway, but I know I've heard that album so many times that I could do the guitar riffs, and I would like it's just like the way you play the air guitar is like you're imagining the way Carlos Santana would hit the notes. You hold a note, so it's like, and you just kind of hold that note, then you go up the guitar to down. Anyway, it's it's not as easy as it looks, Roman. I'm just saying, unless you've tried it, it's not that easy. All right, enough on air guitar. There's so much to discuss in the world today. The first point I want to make, and we're going to get to that Heraldo Rivera bit. I got to get your thoughts on that Heraldo Rivera bit. We're going to have Dennis play it, then we're going to riff on that. But Donald Trump, in my humble opinion, is the biggest sore loser that I have ever seen in politics. I've been following politics, Rummana, for a long time. Richard Nixon was a far better loser, you know what I mean, than Donald Trump. Even Richard Nixon left office. He did the right thing. He left office. He did the right thing. He conceded to JFK. I always thought Richard Nixon was like the epitome of a bad sport in politics, but Donald Trump is hands down the biggest sore loser. This is my humble opinion. What's your reaction to how Donald Trump is handling losing? I got to emphasize that the presidential election to Joe Biden.
I haven't seen anything of this nature during my lifetime. So I don't know. When was Richard Nixon president? In the late 60s, right? I know.
1968 to 1974.
Yeah. Okay. So I was born when Nixon was president, but I was not aware of politics at that point. I was really young. So, Donald Trump just not conceding. I've never seen that happen before. We saw Hillary Clinton concede like in the wee hours in 2016, and most of my lifetime, I've never seen a president not concede. And it's just interesting for me. It's, we kind of expected this, didn't we? Donald Trump, he calls everybody else losers. So like for him, it's like he's a loser. And I don't know if you saw that, but if you look up loser.com, it goes to Donald Trump's Wikipedia page. I mean, everybody's been sharing that. So I think this is like, it's like, not just losing the presidency, but it's like his ego, like, oh God, I lost something. He can't admit it. And the thing that is more disturbing, I think, for me is his, a lot of fellow Republicans who are basically, goading him, saying that what he's doing, he's like, totally fine. And, you hear somebody like Mike Pompeo or Mitch McConnell, they're just kind of coddling him like he's like some sort of baby, and, telling him it's going to be okay. And what he's doing is okay. And it's, I don't know. I just find that even a step more disturbing than Donald Trump, because I think everybody saw this with Donald Trump. Everybody's coming with Donald Trump. I think a lot of people haven't there been articles written that people around him, know that the writing's on the wall, but they're still just trying to keep him happy and, giving him false hope. And, I know there's no way that he doesn't know, he can't see the writing on the wall. I mean, can he be that dumb? But I don't know.
Well, he's Donald Trump, his entire career, he's been able to get himself out of predicaments that most people would never escape. And so, for instance, I've talked about this a lot on the show with his Trump Tower here in Chicago. He borrowed money, he made pledges to repay the money. And when he was unable to repay those pledges, he instead of like having to face the fire, so to speak, he countersued. He sued the people that he owed the money to and claimed that they were damaging him. And so his entire career as a businessman, he's escaped accountability and responsibility. He's been able to go bankrupt several times and survive. So he's able to do things that most people have been unable to do, mainly because he's got this strong sense of entitlement and willfulness, and also because the sums involved were so enormous that the banks were worried about getting their money back, so they had to make accommodations. So I think he's been prepared. Think about it. Just go one step further. Everybody else in the country was facing the war in Vietnam. His father got some doctor to write up some medical excuse that got him out of the war. He's always been able to escape accountability and responsibility. In the end, people placate him. So, Rummana, I think this is a continuation of something that's been going on his whole life.
Exactly. And they call him Teflon Don. I mean, he's able to get away with a lot of things where I look back and I think about the things that he's gotten away with. And I'm like, could you imagine if Barack Obama was president? He would have been out of office within like months. And Donald Trump has been able to get away with a lot of things many presidents wouldn't have, and especially an African-American president.
Well, and it's one step further here, Rummana, and I'm listening to what you said. This triggered this thought in my mind. There's a sense of victimization that at the heart of the MAGA appeal, like they're the victims.
Yeah.
They're always getting picked on. Political correctness works against them. They can't say mean, nasty things about me and you, but we can say nasty things about them. And Donald Trump appealed to that sense of victimhood. And now he's playing the victim. Like when he goes, Pennsylvania, it's Philadelphia. When they talk about Michigan, it's Detroit. You know what they're saying, Rummana. You know what he's really saying there.
Yeah, for sure. We know what he's saying. He's saying black people, right?
Yes.
But then the next day he says that, he talks about how many black friends he has and how he's, the best president that African Americans had ever had, or has done the most for African Americans. So he's like speaking from both sides of his mouth. And one of your homework assignments to me was to read the book Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. And I just finished that book. And the book really touches upon white supremacy in this country and how there's a caste system, basically. And, a lot of folks, and the author touches upon Donald Trump's presidency and how this is just, a lot of people, maybe not outright, they know this, but like psychologically, they're just trying to hold on to their white supremacy. And Donald Trump speaks to that, victimization that, oh, wow, we're like, there's fewer white people than we are before. I mean, how many times do you hear about Donald Trump supporters saying about what they like about Donald Trump because he's preserving traditions and values? And I know I'm an outsider. I'm a South Asian and I'm a Muslim, but growing up, when I thought like what Americans talked about values and tradition, I never thought of someone like Donald Trump or the way he lives his life or the things that he stands for. So I don't know. It's very interesting. So a lot of times I hear traditions and, old way of life and keep America, make America great again. We know what that's a dog whistle for.
I urge everybody to read Caste by Caste, Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. When I first was talking about it a couple of months ago, Dennis was teasing me. You mean the columnist for the Tribune? No, that's Cass. Okay, no,
Cass.
This is as far removed from Johnny Cass as you can get. Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. It's just such a powerful book.
It was great. And I was, was going to say, because I'm Indian and I'm, have been to India, I know a little bit about the caste system. And I just thought it was impressive because I know a little bit about that and how different castes are kept in their place. And it was brilliant. And, she talks obviously about Nazism, and it was wonderful.
Well, there were so many elements of the book. This is a tangent I didn't expect to go on, but there were so many elements of the book. We could do a whole show on the book Caste.
Yeah, I definitely can.
But the element that just hit me so hard, Rummana, was when I was reading the book, and she had a detail about how in the 30s, Nazi propagandists and lawyers who were trying to set up a system that would separate Jews from mainstream German society studied the South, the United States, to learn from Jim Crow what they could do in Germany to the Jews, to learn from how American Jim Crow Southern system treated black people. That blew my mind, that they studied the South to learn how to set up laws in Nazi Germany.
That was something I didn't know. And then I thought another part that was poignant about the book was when she talks about how in Germany, anything Hitler related was automatically, disposed of. But whereas us in the United States, when it came to the Civil War, Robert E. Lee has been given all these statues and schools named after him. And, I just thought the parallels were just interesting and fascinating about how Germany was trying to stay away from all that. And the United States has always kind of embraced the Confederacy in some sort of way. But anyway, I recommend the book too. Thanks for recommending it to
every
me.
listeners. Yeah, Cast.
And thanks to my mother-in-law for sending it to us.
Shout out to Rummana's mother-in-law. Good job on sending that book, Cast by Isabel Wilkerson. All right, D, I've been gearing up for this for a while. We're going to play Heraldo Rivera at the onset of the show. I compared him to a horse whisperer, Rummana, and a horse whisperer, as I said, is a person, a cowboy, who knows how to train horses. You whisper in a horse's ear, and you can get a rambunctious horse to calm down a little bit. And my sense, listening to Heraldo Rivera, is that this is a man. I'm giving Heraldo the best spin possible here, Rummana, when I say this. This is a man who's trying to whisper in to Donald Trump's ear and try to get him to do the right thing. Let's listen to Heraldo Rivera, D.
Morning. I have a kind of open letter to my friend, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, whom I supported wholeheartedly and suffered grave disappointment when he lost the 45th President of the United States. Dear Mr. President, my honored friend, you fought an incredible battle against all odds and the curse of insidious disease, the plague, obviously, the coronavirus plague that has affected all of us. You battled, Mr. President, the backstabbers and our enemies around the world. You remade the world in peace and prosperity. You came so close in this election, but time coming soon to say goodbye with grace and dignity. I know it's hard to hear, but that's the way I feel about this now. He fought this amazing battle against the backstabbers. He remade the world. I mean, that's all real. Leave with your chin high in a week or so when the court fights no longer present a realistic long shot chance to overturn the election. That's very important. Fight like hell as long as there's a realistic chance that something can come of it. As of right now, the president would need to win Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin. Close, but still long shots, razor-thin margins in those handful of states, but it's a heavy lift for the president. Let them count the votes all this week and the beginning of next week, and then at the end of the week that's coming, the week before Thanksgiving, you have to do the right thing for the nation. I had some random thoughts. Is it my imagination, or has Dr. Fauci lately become much more optimistic about vaccines? Remember, he was so skeptical about vaccines. Dr. Fauci said that our life would be all messed up through 2022. Now the president's lost the election. Fauci's much more bullish on vaccines, much more optimistic about vaccines. Nobody's perfect. Thank you.
Wow. Heraldo Rivera, all over the map with that thing. I could break it. I could do a whole column just on the mixture of fantasy, lies, delusions, and contradictions.
You probably like that Heraldo Rivera, as a reporter, was admitting who he voted for.
Yeah, well, he's hardly a reporter, but yeah, no, I do believe, yes, this is one of our favorite little discoveries. Not just Rummana, but Maya gives me grief on this one, too. Maya, who's so left, she's like, even, Ben, I'm not going to tell you who I voted for. Oh, duh, who do you think? Who are you kidding? Who are you kidding? But anyway, no, Heraldo Rivera. I wouldn't call Heraldo Rivera a reporter. I would call him what would I call him? A celebrity, a TV personality, I would not definitely call him a reporter. He hasn't been a reporter since the 60s. Anyway, I just thought it was like, first of all, there's just like this central inconsistency there. He's saying Donald lost. And then he's saying fight to win. Well, you can't have two ways.
Exactly.
Rummana.
And then he recently talked, I think on Twitter a few minutes before I got on the phone with you, he said that he was on the phone with Donald Trump And Donald Trump said that he's a realist, and he was consoling Donald Trump on the phone. He just talked to him. So everybody was kind of going after Heraldo Rivera. They're like, well, why don't you tell your friend? Because he's talking about how he talked to his friend a few minutes ago and was consoling him. And I don't know. Yeah, he's kind of talking from both sides of his mouth. I think he's acting like he's going to save the day. He's telling Donald Trump to concede, right? He's taking one for the team.
Yeah, it's as though Donald Trump was this great president who did so much for the world, but was never appreciated. I'm like, what? Particularly in the fight against COVID, like, what has Donald Trump done? Be as fair as you can, Rummana. Play the role of the objective journalist. What has Donald Trump done, objectively speaking, to lead this country in the fight against
coronavirus?
COVID-19? Yeah, cut me out here. Go ahead.
I don't know. I can't say anything. We know that, I know we're going to be touching upon this later, but a lot of members of his cabinet, every time you look up, somebody in his circle has gotten sick. So he definitely hasn't taken the caution within his own circles to stop it. Although I'm sure he was being careful when he was alone, because isn't he a germaphobe? The guy got coronavirus himself. So we know that he, not to say that, there's a lot of people who've been very careful and still get the coronavirus because it's very easily spreadable. But we know that, just looking at him and him talking about it, he really didn't take it very seriously.
No, he didn't take it very seriously at all. And I can't, this thing about making world peace, not quite sure what he's talking about there.
Yeah.
But
What does Heraldo Rivera even do? Like, where is he these days? I haven't really followed him. When you sent me that Heraldo Rivera thing, I didn't even know they were friends.
I don't know what Geraldo Rivera is doing. When I opened the show, I talked about how way back in the early days, I remember he was a star on TV, and I thought he was kind of a cool guy. This is like in the 70s, so I was young. Don't blame me.
How I remember him?
Oh.
Remember when they did the Al Capone? We're going to open the Al Capone vaults.
I remember that clearly. Yeah.
This happened in the 80s, I think, and I was a kid, and I remember me and my older sister we were so excited, and we sat down and we watched, and I don't know how long the special was, but I think it was over an hour. And then they finally opened the vault, and there was nothing inside. So that's my introduction to Geraldo Rivera. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I remember also he had a show and he got hit in the head with a chair. I think it broke his nose. Yeah, my nose. Anyway, Geraldo Rivera stories we talk about, but I just thought it was.
I bet none of your younger listeners know who he is, but.
No, that's why I bent over backwards to explain it. But the point I wanted to raise about it was how he was approaching Donald Trump, and he was approaching Donald Trump as though Donald Trump was a lunatic, and had to be, talked off from doing something crazy and insane. I thought of all these movies I've seen where, you've got the guy in a bank, he's got dynamite strapped around himself, and he's holding the button, and he's going to push it and blow it up, and the police negotiators come in and they try to talk him down, calm down, and you know what I mean? Like they entertain his paranoias and his fears and his fantasy to assuage him. Yes, I understand you've been a victim. That's like what Geraldo Rivera is. That's the tone he's taking. Yeah, you're underappreciated. Yeah, you were a great president. Yeah, you did so much wonderful things for the world, and all they did was stab you to death. And then he throws Dr. Fauci under the bus.
I know. That came out of nowhere. He just wants to show him that, yeah, don't worry, Dr. Fauci sucks. That's what I feel like he's just throwing that in there. It's like, meanwhile, Dr. Fauci's all excited about the vaccine, and he never was before. Why is he excited about it now when he wasn't ever before? It's just funny.
Yeah, by the way, and as I said earlier, I listened, I read Fauci's comments. He's not all excited about them. He's same old Dr. Fauci,
No, most scientists and anybody that most of my friends in the medical field, they're skeptical. They're cautiously optimistic, but it's not going to be something like you wake up and there's a vaccine and we're all going to be okay in one day.
Yeah, no, COVID is raging. And like you said, I think it was 130 Secret Service agents have now tested positive. Several of Donald Trump's aides have tested positive. That's because Donald Trump has made no attempt whatsoever to be cautious. I can't think of any, I don't think every now and then we get word that's Governor Pritzker's quarantined, because he may have been exposed to one person, but it's like, that's it. You know what I mean? One person as opposed to 130 Secret Service men who may expose. All right. Sore loser number 2 award goes to Jim Oberweis, who is running against Lauren Underwood. We didn't do the update in the show earlier today, but Lauren Underwood is ahead by over a percentage point, I want to say. They're slowly coming close.
And I believe the Associated Press had called her the winner.
Yes.
And Jim Oberweis has not conceded yet. And he said that he's going to be asking for a recount. So he's playing Donald Trump's, game card or strategy right now.
Yeah. Is there some kind of like common denominator between the Oberweises and the Trumps of the world who just absolutely refuse that they lost?
I think so. And I think with Jim Oberweis is like, everybody knows he's the milk and ice cream magnate. His ice cream is very, very popular. Everybody loves it. I'm not a huge ice cream person, so I've never really eaten Oberweis ice cream. But, he has the money and he's ran for so many offices for the longest time, and he lost all of them except for state senator in 2012, I believe. Yeah. And here you have Lauren Underwood, who's a young African-American woman in this 14 congressional district, I believe. And she's from Naperville, and she was a freshman. And, people thought it was actually going to be, she was going to go out pretty, easy. But, it was a pretty close call. And I think their election is similar to what we were seeing in the country. There was a lot more Oberweis supporters than we thought there were for this race. I think a lot of people thought Lauren Underwood would, have it in the bag. Maybe they didn't think it was super easy, but they didn't know it was going to be this close. That it was going to be taking several days. I mean, this took longer than the actual presidential election for them to declare a winner. So, yeah, I think there's some parallels there. You have someone that is completely, they're diametrically opposed in terms, politically. And Oberweis is definitely, the candidate that a lot of Trump supporters would be voting for, I would think. And Lauren Underwood is attracting a totally different group of people. So I think it definitely is an interesting race, at least for us here in Chicago. And yeah, Oberweis is, I think, playing the Donald Trump card here by not, conceding. He's kind of doing the same thing. He wants to be Donald Trump.
Well, he got as close as he did by virtue, and this is what's the thing that's most alarming in my humble opinion. Lauren Underwood was victorious in 2018, as you pointed out, in a district that went for Trump. So it was in 2016, Trump won the 14th congressional. So she beat the odds by winning, defeating the incumbent in that race, Hultgren, in 2018. This time around, Oberweis closed the gap because he tied himself to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump proved how popular he was with MAGA. He increased the number of votes that the Republican opponent to Lauren Underwood got just by his presence on the ticket. And that just shows you the strength that Donald Trump has with MAGA voters, his popularity with them, that they would just vote for Jim Oberweis because Trump tweeted out a support for him. And then Oberweis went to Kenosha. Good column, by the way. I want to give a shout out to Neil Steinberg. Good column in today's Bright One. I know you didn't edit it, about the Oberweis race. Very good column by Neil. I urge everybody to read it. Although there was one little thing that he had in there, which I had a big laugh out of. And he said Oberweis is a downstate Republican. And Oberweis is actually from the Aurora area. I think he's from a small town. He now lives in a small town called Sugar Grove, which I've never been to. But I struggle with geography as well, Rummana, when it comes to me, as somebody who went to high school in Evanston, has lived in Chicago since 1981. There is Chicago, Cook County, and then everything else is downstate. Even if it's upstate, you literally upstate from Chicago. Do you struggle with those same issues?
I grew up in Lincolnwood. I was born in Chicago, the north side, and then I grew up in Lincolnwood, which is literally outside Chicago. It's near Evanston. You can go to Evanston within like 10, 15 minutes. So yeah, me and my friends, like all the people I grew up with, we kind of think like Chicago, and then we just think Cook County and then North Shore. That's like the only places that we like know a lot about, and that's about it. And then whenever we have to go somewhere like in like a suburb like Naperville, where like where, I still get confused about where that is. I'm like, isn't that like, I think I called it something completely different once. I'm like, isn't it Southwest? And I know it's not Southwest. I don't know. It's like Northwest. And, I don't know that much about some of these suburbs because a lot of our family friends kind of lived within the same area. But yeah, I do that all the time. I mix up things and, I just know certain suburbs. And my parents are actually even worse. Like for my late father would think anything like outside of this, like north side of the city or, in like that was a little further than Skokie, he'd be like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in the jungle or something, if he went really far north, it's like the far northern suburbs. So yeah, I think that's just kind of, I don't know if it's a snobbery, but I'm always like, if it's in the city or like a northern suburb, then I'm like familiar with it. And I'll be like less hesitant to like make the trip there because I know more about those places. So yeah, I think a lot of us are geographically challenged. And I think a lot of, the reason why people who live in Schaumburg and Naperville probably aren't as much is because they do come to the city, right? Sometimes. So yeah, I don't know.
They're as ignorant about Chicago. Well, I don't know if they're as ignorant. I know. I hope Heidi Henry, my good friend Heidi Henry, is listening. Good friend of the show. And I always say, what is it like out in the boonies? She gets mad at me and teases me about that. She's out in the boonies somewhere. I've just blanked on where she lives.
Oh, okay.
She ran for against Sue Rezin in the state senate race in 2018. I just blanked on.
Okay, now I know. I know who she is. So yeah.
So, but Heidi's always teasing me about how ignorant we are in Chicago about the rest of the state. She's absolutely correct.
No, it's true.
Yeah, but we want all the people downstate or upstate, whatever, to vote for our liberal candidates, but we know nothing about them. Just vote for us. Shut up. So yeah. I get it, guys. I
get it too.
I can kind of see where Mag is coming from. All right, let's move on close with Rummana's recommendations. I got a ton of recommendations for you, but before I give my recommendations, what you got? What do you advise us to watch?
Well, I'll tell you what I've been doing the last couple of days. So I did start watching Queen's Gambit. I know you recommended it, and a friend of mine told me it was good to watch. It's only 7 episodes, so I asked my husband if he wanted to watch it, and he did, and he likes it too. I know you said
yeah, I can't believe that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Between the two of us, he's the only one who knows. I think he said he knows how to play chess. I have no idea how to play chess. I don't know how to play checkers. I made fun of a kid I knew. He was a family friend, but he was on the chess team. I made fun of him in high school. So I didn't know anything about the world, but it's definitely not just about chess. And it's actually it's a good watch. I've been watched 4 episodes into it, and then I also took a recommendation and I'm watching the French series Call My Agent Call My Agent. And I like it. I know you thought I sounded skeptical when I talked to you earlier, but I do like it. I mentioned it to other friends too. And it's like 3 seasons, I think, are Netflix. And I'm going to watch the, I guess the 4th season whenever it comes on. But I started watching that. I'm 3 episodes into the 1st season. And a friend of mine, he was talking about Queen's Gambit on Facebook a couple of days ago. And he mentioned that he really liked Queen's Gambit, but he said it wasn't the best series you saw this year. He said the best series you saw this year was a show called 000. Now, since you're all into like foreign series these days, this is an Italian show. It's an Italian series, and he said it's similar to The Wire, and it kind of is focused on a cocaine transaction. It's kind of about the cocaine drug dealing, I guess, life, and it kind of ties together different parts of the world. And I think Gabriel Byrne is in it, so there are some Americans in it, but it's an Italian-based series, and it's on Amazon Prime, and I Googled it, and it's gotten really, really rave reviews. And so I was talking to Mick about it, and he likes anything drug-related. So that's why I was shocked that he wanted to watch The Queen's Gambit. I always complained to him that he only watches shows like if they're involving a politician, somebody who's a drug addict or a drug dealer.
Yeah.
That's it. Like he's not, and then, and I was telling you, he saw me watching Call My Agent yesterday, and he's like, what are you watching? And I'm like, it's this French series about, these agents for these like French actors. And I said, you're not going to like it. Although, he'll watch something like Veep, which is, you know, about people, about screwed up people in the political world. They're like not that much different, but because it's involved politics, he would never watch. I don't think he would ever watch Call My Agent, but.
Well,
Anyway,
I'm going to tell you about Call My Agent. It gets better with each year. And
really?
by the end of that, I was, when it was over, I really missed it. And I know, just so people know this, like in Call My Agent, it's fictitious. The agency is fictitious.
Oh, of course.
But they have real actors and French actors who are well known in France. But, like I'm typical American. I didn't know them. I had to look them up on Netflix. I don't know if you knew any of those actors.
I don't know. I don't know some of them, the ones that I've seen so far. But I bet as the show goes on, there's might be somebody that I recognize because there's some French actors I do know. And I heard Sigourney Weaver's on it too.
She'll be on season 4. I haven't seen her yet. She speaks fluent French.
Oh.
Yeah. And I can't recommend it enough to people. I know the McDumpkins of the world will not like it, but I just enjoyed it so much. And I missed it when it was over. And thank goodness for the Queen's Gambit. I absolutely loved that freaking show. I couldn't stop watching. When it was, ever have a show, Rummana, when it's over, you miss it?
Yeah.
Have you ever had that happen?
What am I going to do with my life now? But
right, my life is meaningless.
I know. And now that we're, it's suggested that we try to stay at home as much as possible, which I have been trying to do. It's like I've been watching. I never watched this much TV before, this many series before. So I've just been churning out. When I watch something by myself, I binge it, and when I'm watching with my husband, we go a little slower. So. I mean, like you watch Queen's Gambit within like 2 days, right? Or
3 days. It was about a week. My wife and I fell in love with that.
You and your wife probably have the same, like, you guys kind of move the same way. Mick doesn't watch TV only on the weekends, so that's only when I can watch a show with him.
My favorite part of the Rummana segment when she throws her husband Mick Dumpke into the bus.
You're not throwing him under the bus.
I'm just kidding.
His interests are limited. He likes music stuff too, of course. So.
Yes, I urge everybody to check out Mick's Rhapsody. We did an interview a couple weeks ago. Mick's ode to Bruce Springsteen with Mark Baser. Man, those two guys love Bruce Springsteen. That's all I got to say. All right, now I'm going to recommend. I'm going to watch that 000. I got it. I wrote it down, so I'll check that one out. Mank is the movie I'll be watching tonight. It drops on Netflix. It's a David Fincher movie. David Fincher is the director of The Social Network. I've been looking forward to this movie. It's really geeky. I don't know if you. Most of my younger listeners would like it. It has to do with Herman Mankiewicz, who was the writer of Citizen Kane and the fights he had with Orson Welles and the making of Citizen Kane. And I'm into it. It's got a kind of noir feel. It's black and white. So I'm really looking forward to that one on many different levels. It's supposed to get into politics of Hollywood. So I don't know. That's what I'm looking forward to. But I'm going to urge you to watch. I don't know if you've heard of Hannah Gadsby. She's a stand-up comedian, and her first show is very popular. It's called Nanette. Her second one, which came out a while ago, I finally got around to watching it this week. I've been watching a lot of stand-up comics because I've been dealing. It's so difficult to deal with this era of the Trump administration. So I'm really into Hannah Gadsby. I urge you to watch her. It's called Douglas. I'll say no more. I think you would get a kick out of her. And Bill Burr, I watched him. Now you got introduced to Bill Burr a couple of weeks ago when he was at Saturday Night Live. Yeah. You kind of liked him, didn't you?
He was pretty funny. I'm sure there's some things I probably won't agree with, but I laughed. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, well, he's not for everybody. I'm a big fan of Bill Burr, but it's almost kind of embarrassed to admit it in some cases.
Well,
but
all comedians are like, you're not going to agree with them 100% of the time, and there's some comedians that you just laugh at almost everything they say.
Well, Hannah Gadsby, part of her comedy is to make fun of comedians like Bill Burr. So she did that in Nanette. It's kind of so she makes fun of white guys who yell, and that's Bill Burr. He yells.
Yeah.
So he's angry and he yells, and she makes fun of him. I don't think she's mentioned him by name, but anyway, so that's what I've been watching, and that's your homework assignment to watch Hannah Gadsby and get back to me, see what you think, and I will watch.
She's Australian. Is she Australian?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow, very good for knowing that. Yeah, she's Australian.
I just Googled it.
Oh, okay. And she's got this expertise in art, and so part of her comedy, she'll do a flash of famous paintings on a screen, and analyze them in a very funny way. And I know, big fan of Hannah Gadsby. All right, Rummana, stay safe and sound, and we'll talk to you next week, all right?
Okay, take care, guys. Bye.
All right, that's great. Roman Hussein every Friday in the Ben Joravsky Show. D, you got any updates for us?
Rummana, wait. Oh, just missed her. I was going to suggest she watch Ass Whisperer.
Yeah, well, yeah, next week.
Next week we'll do that. Real quick before we ride out of here, we do have one update, and we didn't have to wait long for our next episode of A Mayor and Her Alderman.
A mayor and her alderman.
I want an answer. It's not something you ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit, is what I think.
Love this show. Eat your heart out, Young and the Restless. All right. Real quick here, the following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Fran Spielman. Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor has already gone toe-to-toe with Lori Lightfoot in the rookie alderman's quest to protect Woodlawn residents living around the Jackson Park site of the Obama Presidential Center. Taylor said today, that she was incensed when Lightfoot warned aldermen that if they don't vote for her $12.8 billion budget, quote, don't ask me for shit for the next 3 years. Well, JT, we read some of her comments earlier. I think she said that is some bullshit, I believe she said. Well, we have another quote here from Jeanette Taylor. And it says here, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, according to Jeanette Taylor, Mayor Lori Lightfoot proved, and Brianna said this one earlier, proved that she is no different than Daley or Rahm by threatening to cut off black aldermen who dare to oppose her budget.
That's a direct quote Jeanette Taylor gave to Fran Spielman. I haven't had a chance to talk to Jeanette since the story broke. I'll probably reach out to her today or tomorrow, bring her on the show. Good friend of the show, Jeanette Taylor. Listen, everybody knows I'm a big fan of Jeanette Taylor. She speaks from her heart, and she tells it like it is, and she doesn't sugarcoat it. And she came on this show so many times, D. She was for Bernie, as I recall. She was a Bernie supporter, unabashed Bernie supporter. And she had to make accommodations. She talked about that on the show. Like, she didn't get everything she wanted in the Obama community agreement deal for the Obama Center on the South Side. So she had to make accommodations with the University of Chicago and the Obamas and Mayor Lori Lightfoot. So she just speaks from her heart, and and she's dropped a few. I don't know if she's ever dropped the F-bomb on this show, but she's cussed a little bit. But it's real with Jeanette Taylor, and the 20th ward, in my humble opinion, is lucky that she is their alderwoman. So she's speaking from her heart, and she's absolutely correct. The alderman crossed the line when she made a threat to the black alderman. If you don't vote for my budget, don't come back to me seeking stuff. Look, if their wards need development, if their wards need investment, you should give them the investment and development regardless of how they voted. It's funny, I'm thinking about this. The biggest investment the city of Chicago has made in a single ward is the $1.4 billion, that's billion with a B, handout to Lincoln Yards on the north side, the second ward, Brian Hopkins. I always tell this to people. The second ward didn't get that money because Brian Hopkins gets along with mayors. It just happens that Brian Hopkins is the alderman in the second ward. It's the north side. It's where developers can make money. It's where the city wants to plow its money. If Brian Hopkins was an outspoken opponent of the mayor, it still would have gotten the money. So all that money goes to the north side. And how many aldermen, black aldermen from south side wards and west side wards voted for it? A lot. I don't have the names in front of me, but I know it was a lot of them. They played along with this game in the city, this unfair development game in the city where we distribute money, and it's unfair. If they now you have some black aldermen who are willing to stand up to the mayor and vote no for whatever reason. Maybe they think that taxes are regressive. Maybe they don't like the distribution of money. Maybe they think it's unfair. Maybe they want to see more money for mental health facilities than we're getting. Maybe they want the mental health clinics to reopen. Maybe they want less money for police and more money for treatment. Whatever the reason, if in their conscience they can't vote for the mayor, she should not punish their wards for it. So I'm with Jeanette Taylor on that 100% D.
All right. Well, maybe that was a tease for a guest on next week's program, Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor. And yeah, that was the latest episode of A Mayor and Her Alderman.
A mayor and her alderman.
Wait a minute.
Science is back, baby.
Woo! All right, guys, that's the show. Make sure to follow us online at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can always send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. And we highly encourage you, leave us a voicemail, 708-658-4788. That number again, 708-658-4788. Leave us a voicemail. Not going to answer. And there's a good chance, if you watch your language and you're not insane, we will play your voicemail on the show.
Oh, yes. If you're not insane.
But if you're real insane, maybe we will play it.
Yes, indeed. All right, Roman Hussein, thank you very much. Great job as always. And of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride of Joy Bolton Law, without whom the show would be possible. Something that Jeanette Taylor and Mayor Lori Lightfoot would agree on. Back home in Alton, they call him Dr. D. Keep yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Read the Chicago Reader. Read the Chicago Reader. Read the Chicago Reader.